Welcome back to the second installment in the three-part miniseries where I psychoanalyze the three main characters from Grand Theft Auto V. Previously, we took a deep dive into the psyche of Franklin Clinton and discussed how he was the closest thing to normal we're gonna find in this game. If you haven't seen that video already, I would highly recommend you start there because in this video we're gonna be moving on to the next subject on our list, the one and only Michael Townley, or Michael DeSanta if you know him from after he died. Speaking of which, that's probably the best place to start when looking into Michael's mental state. Michael Townley was a world-renowned bank heister and professional criminal. Alongside the other two members of his crew, which have the combined empathy of a broken window, the trio went on to steal well over millions of dollars from banks, jewelry stores, or armored vans. Now I know what you're thinking. That trio? And no, this is well before Franklin's time. The trio I'm referring to is Michael, Brad, and the one and only Trevor Phillips. This trio met its ending during the prologue of GTA V, when Brad and Michael were both shot by FIB agent Dave Norton. Michael was presumed dead, and Brad's body was buried in Michael's place. Meanwhile, Trevor escaped and relocated to northern San Andreas. I bring all this up only because it really does act as a foundation for who Michael is. You see, Michael planned for all this to happen, except for Brad getting shot, and wanted to use this as an opportunity to get out of the game. Together with Dave, he made a plan to screw over his fellow criminal peers in exchange for a clean slate. Now I want to take this time to say that Michael was never in witness protection. Michael was too big of a fish to get protection for his crimes, and the type of crimes he committed were not typically the ones WPPs are used for anyway. Michael even says as much to Franklin.
So I had to go into kind of an informal witness protection program.
What he instead did was strike a deal with Dave to get his name and life off the grid. Of course, like most deals in life, Dave wanted something too. So in return for taking Michael off the grid, Dave Norton would be the one credited for taking down the infamous Michael Townley and his crew. Oh, and Michael would also pay him $50,000 a month. Definitely a great deal, especially if Dave wanted to move up in the FIB. But he instead chose to coast on his catch for 10 years and have the same upward career growth as a stoner working at McDonald's. So Michael is now off the grid, away from the world that once knew him as the king of bank heists and now lives in a large mansion in Los Santos with his ex-stripper wife and 2 kids. Michael's life as a retired man was definitely confusing and short-lived. In the few days that we get to see, he coerced a man into driving into a car dealership, beat up the owner of said dealership, murdered several men while attempting to rescue his boat, and tore down a man's house because he fucked his wife. Honestly, this was all within the same week, which means I can only assume that he's been on this bullshit since the moment he hit Los Santos.
Nah, man, go fuck yourself.
However, while he brazenly disrespects the law and any ethical code out there, even while retired and hiding from the law, the one man you never mess with is Martin Madrazo. Players of GTA V can say a lot of things about the infamous Martin Madrazo. If you're a big fan of the online mode, I'm sure he is personally responsible for a good amount of your online cash. But the one thing that no one can say about him is that he's a good person. Michael already knew that it was his house that he pulled down when a European woman yelled green light at him twice over the phone.
Green light! Green light! Martin Madrazo, give you green light!
But I think when Michael met face to face with Martin is when he really understood the gravity of the situation he's found himself in. I mean, it did take him meeting Martin Madrazo's bat barrel to abdomen, but he learned very quickly while he was gasping for air on the ground. Now imagine you're Michael here, with a dysfunctional family, an uncontrollable rage that's liable to make you tear down millions of dollars in houses, and a mob boss who you now owe $2.5 million to. What would you do to come up with the money? Personally, I would move out of Los Santos and find a nice comfy spot under a rock far, far away. But Michael decides that the best thing to do is to get into more trouble and rob a jewelry store for as much money as he can grab. To his credit, this is his area of expertise, and he does a mighty fine job of planning a heist that got him the money needed for Madrazo. Except for one mistake.
Forget 1,000 things every day, pal. Make sure this is one of them.
15 words and 2 sentences that cost him any hope of returning to life as a cranky old retiree. This may go down in history as one of the dumbest things that a person can do, especially in this situation. I mean, I get that Michael is a fan of the fanatical, but come on now. You just robbed a store and are holding millions of dollars worth of jewels. You really think now is the time to intimidate a witness with a very memorable line that you personally are known for saying? At this point, Michael should have just FaceTimed Trevor and told him to kiss his ass, because that's how Trevor took the news anyway. There's a lot you can say about Trevor Phillips, but that's what the final video on this mini-series is for. However, it's impossible to discuss Michael without mentioning the crazed psychopath. They are synonymous with each other, and no matter how much running Michael does, the two always end up together again. Michael is always trying to do one more big job to get it all to end, to put it behind him. Originally, the jewelry store heist was supposed to be that job. Then it was the raid for the FIB, then the submarine raid for Trevor, then the bank that they used Juggernaut suits for. and finally the Union Depository. This is actually something I think Michael and Franklin have a lot in common. They both always say that they want out, that they want to do something else with their lives, yet they keep on coming back for more. Michael could have skipped town once Trevor found out about him. He especially could have done so when his family got up and left him. He's done it before, and now he has the resources to be able to do it again. But Michael chose to stay. Some might say that he was worried about the FIB coming after him, but in reality, the threats that Dave made were lukewarm at best. Once Trevor was in the picture, both Dave and Michael knew it was only a matter of time before Trev starts asking some real hard questions. Yet they kept playing this game with him. Obviously, a portion of this is due to the very nature of the game itself. There was never a world where Michael does the same thing and moves out of Los Santos when Madrazo comes after him, because then we as players don't have a campaign to play in. I get that. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to take his inability to pick good solutions to his problems as a character flaw instead of a scripted event. Michael Townley has seen enough shit to make the toughest motherfucker you know weep like a baby. From a cheating stripper wife to an unstable nuke of a best friend, the guy cannot catch a break if he fucking tried. But he could still try. He could do his best to make things better, or at least avoid making things actively more difficult for himself. Even though the story of GTA 5 is exaggerated for the sake of the player, the fundamental themes that the game is based on are some of the most real things we as people can feel. Michael is trapped in a never-ending loop of life kicking his ass. He can't even cope with the fact that he is actively a part of the problem. Because to Michael, all these things are happening to him, not because of him. Many people may not know that Michael has a shrink that you can go and visit in your free time while playing as Michael. And while this guy is a disgrace to every psychologist, he is still able to bring up some good points about Michael's life. He is a bitter old man that complains about life while refusing to do anything to better his own situation. Michael is consumed by his trauma, and every decision he makes ends up snowballing into a worse one. Even after you complete the Union Depository and Michael has enough money to flee or even buy another country, he chooses to stick around in the place that has caused him so much mental turmoil. I think with all this information, I'm finally ready to come to a conclusion on his diagnosis. It's at this point in the video that I would list off a few options for what I think would be troubling our millionaire maniac, but I think that there really is only one that perfectly encapsulates what I see in Michael. Sure, there are other possibilities, and I wouldn't argue with anyone that says that half the DSM-5 applies to this guy. But to me, the underlying issue that causes all of his problems is post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD is a complex diagnosis that can have an effect on everything that a person does. It can shroud a person's decisions in worry or fear. It can make some people more erratic and harder to understand. It mainly stems from either a serious traumatizing event or a series of events that can cause a person to almost accumulate trauma over a period of time. I believe that the latter of these two applies to Michael. After being in the thievery business for so long, prolonged exposure to the consequences of his actions has taken a serious toll on his mental health. Michael is terrified of reliving his past mistakes and feels as though that's all he can do. No matter what he does, he always ends up in the same place, the place that he tried to run from more than 10 years ago. I can sympathize with Michael, and while I understand that CPTSD can be difficult to live with, one can expect their life to improve until they start making steps to getting there. That's it for this video. I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Looking at Michael really shines a light at all those around me who suffer with PTSD. It can't be an easy thing to live with, and all we can do is make strides toward a better future for all of us. Please make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you did enjoy this video, and I will see you all for the final episode in this mini-series. I'll see you all later.